Hey, it's Coach Lele. Welcome to the Pink Couch. Tonight's episode, conflict resolution.
If you could have a conversation, that's what you say. Have a conversation. Come to the big couch and talk it out with Coach Lee. With Coach Lee. A simple conversation.
I know you're thinking, Coach, you in these hard questions and hard topics. Yes, because y'all hard people. And I'm trying to break through that shell to get to the real you so you can be the best you. All right. So when you think about conflict resolution, you usually only hear about it in the workplace. But you need conflict resolution skills in family, in marriage, in business, in church, everywhere. Conflict resolution is very, very important. Because where there is no peace, there is chaos. And a lot of people in our today's society are in chaos. Some of it is controlled. Some of it is expected. Some of it is people's norm. But chaos should never be your norm. Sometimes people are allergic to peace. They are allergic to solutions. That's why you have a bunch of chronic complainers. They don't want to find a resolution. They don't want to find a way to resolve issues. So we're going to talk about the benefits of conflict resolution tonight, different key elements, and what we can expect, how we can grow from it. So let's do the definition thing. You know me, I'm the wordsmith. We got to define things, right? So conflict resolution is the process of finding a mutually agreeable solution to a disagreement or dispute. That's what it is. It involves understanding different perspectives, communicating effectively, and finding a common ground to address the issue and then reach a resolution that satisfies all parties involved. One reason why people are not adamant or not prone to conflict resolution is because of selfishness. In order for you to have a conflict resolution, all the parties involved must agree that this works. People say stuff like, we're going to learn to agree to disagree. And both parties have to say, okay, in order for that to be the resolve for that particular issue. But a lot of people are hell-bent on being right. But I got to prove my point. You got to see it my way. Or I don't want to have a conversation. And people like that are what I would call control freaks. They want to control how you think, how you respond, what you believe. But when you have a conflict resolution in place, everybody's perspective is valued to be heard. Okay? I didn't say to be accepted, but to be heard. And a lot of people they don't listen. It's amazing that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Why do you think that is? We need to hear more than we say. And so a lot of people only listen to respond as opposed to understand. And so when you don't listen to understand, you never get anywhere that way. Everybody wants their voice to be heard, their point, their drive. But that's not how you resolve conflict. So what are some key elements to conflict resolution? First of all, you got to understand different perspectives. Everybody is different. Nobody thinks the same. Nobody likes the same things. For instance, like today, I went to lunch earlier today, and we both got Alice Springs chicken. But guess what? She got Alice Springs chicken without mushrooms, but I got mine with mushrooms. It's the same dish, but it was different perspective. You understand what I'm saying? It was the same entree, but it's prepared differently. And a lot of times we think because it's the same thing, it's not always the same thing. So we really have to understand that we got to understand different perspectives. The crucial step is to understand the root cause of the conflict and the different viewpoints of those involved. So you cannot get anything resolved if you're not willing to consider people's viewpoints. Remember when I did the episode about why did I get married? And remember I gave you the analogy that arguments are not what we think they are. It's not yelling and screaming, cuss each other out. No, it's two perspectives about this one issue, and you're trying to argue your point. You have to have a point to it. So if you're just yelling and screaming, it's not an argument. You're just being abusive in your language. So here we go again. It's coming right back to us again. We got to find the root cause to be able to understand how this started, and then understand different viewpoints of those involved. Okay? So like I said, I was at lunch with somebody today. We both got the same dish. I didn't like, girl, you should eat these mushrooms. They are really good. No, I respected the fact she didn't want mushrooms, and she didn't question the fact that I did. So we were able to, there was no conflict because we understand each other's viewpoints. So because we are both involved at the table. So if you're going to have conflict resolution, you must understand different perspectives. This is so important in relationship, in business, in the marketplace, on your job, because you all can have the same goal, which may be to make money, establish new clientele. But if you don't view and respect if you don't hear the viewpoints of the other people in business, on the job, on the team, you're not going to get anywhere. All right. Number 2, effective communication. Open and honest communication is essential for expressing needs, concerns, and finding the common ground. All right. So what do we need to resolve this? What are the concerns of why we're having a conflict? And how can we find the common ground? A lot of people do not have effective communication. This is what I said, listening to respond as opposed to understanding. And so when you're in the heated discussion that you want to call an argument, what's first people say? You're not hearing me. You ain't listen to a word I said. Because you just want to rebuttal. You want to say, no, that ain't true. But you're not listening to the concern, to the need to come to a common ground. So when you don't have effective communication, then you go into name calling. You go into condescending attitudes. You start being dismissive. And so now you just throw your hands and forget it. Well, guess what? The issue's still not resolved. Because nobody wants to communicate. So it is imperative you have effective communication. The next thing is finding a common ground, identifying areas of agreement, and working towards a solution that addresses the core issues. If you don't find a common ground that's going to address the actual issue, it's null and void. You got to find a common ground. If the common ground is we want to make money, okay, what is the need? What are the concerns? And how do we get there? So if your goal is to make money, to increase, you got to figure out, what do we need? We need investment. We need marketing. We need a social media presence. These are things I'm just throwing out just randomly. Like, those are the needs. What do you need to make the money? You need clientele. You need customers. You need repeat customers. You need corporate accounts. A lot of things that you need to make the money. Okay, so what's the concern? Like, these are the concerns. Because we don't have these things in place, it's affecting our influx. So this is how you find the common ground. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to tackle social media. I'm going to tackle marketplace. I'm going to tackle commercial accounts. Now you have a solution. All of you want to make the money. Now you all have an assignment, and you can come back and see how it yields. You see how you understand different perspectives, effective communication. Now you have the common ground. When you find the common ground, when you're willing to sit down and listen and talk about it, now you know how to execute what's the next thing. All right. So then another thing you need to worry about is negotiation and compromise. Conflict resolution often involves negotiation. Okay. Say, for instance, I'm in trouble with my mom because I didn't clean my room. But I want this lemon cookie, right? So, okay, Mom, if I clean my room and then I clean the kitchen, can I get a cookie? Because I've already messed up. I'm not going to get the cookie because I didn't clean my room. So now I got to negotiate because I really want the cookie. So if I add an extra chore on here, can I get the cookie? You can't have conflict without negotiation. You got to be willing to negotiate. When parties are willing to compromise to reach a mutually acceptable outcome, that will help you in conflict resolution. Okay, my mom is willing to compromise. She wasn't gonna give me no cookie, but because I'm willing to clean my room and mop the floor, guess what? Okay, that's another chore she doesn't have. The cookie is worth it. Do you see what I'm talking about? But if she didn't hear my perspective, and if I didn't understand that I dropped the ball or not cleaning my room, there's a reason why I'm not getting the cookie. We couldn't have resolve the conflict. Okay. Then the last thing is next thing is resolution. The goal is to find a solution that addresses the conflict and restores and strengthens relationships. Find a solution that addresses the conflict and it restores and strengthens relationships. If you are not willing to work to the commonality of we need to be stronger and closer, you're going to always be in conflict. The resolution has to bring restoration. It has to make you stronger in this particular area so you will not be in conflict again. Conflict should not be ongoing. It should not be happening over and over and over again. If it's happening over and over again, can I submit that you never had a resolution? Something to think about. All right, so let's talk about methods of conflict resolution. We define what conflict resolution is, what's important. Let's talk about methods, okay? One method you can use is direct communication. A lot of people avoid that. They talk to everybody except who they got the conflict with. That's how you get gossip. Because once you tell one person, they tell to somebody else their version, then they've added their version to it and their opinion to it, and now it's a whole big mess. Direct communication, talking directly with the person involved to address the issue. That's one method of conflict resolution. Second one, mediation. A neutral third party helps facilitate the resolution process. If you and the person cannot get together, find somebody from the outside that's unbiased, that is skilled in that area, that can hear you out and mediate between the two of you. All right. Number 3, arbitration. A neutral party that makes a binding decision in the dispute. Since you can't come to conflict of your own, never got to call an arbitrator. They're going to hear both sides and then make a decision for you. Okay? Number 4, litigation. Using the legal system to resolve the conflict. Do we really got to go to people's court? Like, do we really got to go see Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown? Like, do we really got to do that? But a lot of times we end up in litigation because we don't want to resolve it amongst ourselves. Nobody's hearing us. We can't get the third party to come in. Guess what? Now we got to go to Judge Judy. She going to tell us off. She going to tell us about ourselves. We may get paid. We may not. But those are 4 methods of conflict resolution. All right, let's talk about the benefits of conflict resolution. Improved relationships. When you're able to resolve a conflict, it should improve the relationship. Which means successfully resolving conflicts that can strengthen your relationship and foster trust. A lot of times we are in conflict because there's no trust there. And when people don't trust each other, they're always side-eyeing each other, always thinking you out to get me, you trying to play my face, as people say. But when that comes from lack of trust. And so when you're able to resolve the conflict, trust should be restored. It was once broken, but now it should improve your relationship. If you're having conversations and you come to a commonality, this is what you're going to stick to, it doesn't improve your relationship, then you're going to be in trouble. Number 2, it should increase. Okay, next one is increased collaboration. Finding common ground and working together towards solutions can boost teamwork and collaboration. Some of y'all need to go back to my dad's high school days in the chorus class when they said, "No man is an island. No man stands alone." We have to understand that you're going to need people in this life. I know you about that life, and you pull up and you gangster and you all listen. You better get some sense. You need people in this world to get things done, to make the right connections, to grow, to mature. You need people. So when you're doing conflict resolution, it should increase your collaboration. I'm collaborating with Second Chance Sound in order to do the pink couch. The pink couch is just a couch without my collaboration with Second Chance Sound. You understand what I'm saying? Like Gracefully Broached is just inventory without my clientele. I'm collaborating with the world to sell my product. You understand what I'm saying? You got to have increased collaboration. All right. The next thing is a better communication. Conflict resolution often leads to improved communication skills and a greater understanding of others' perspectives. We really need to work on our communication skills. A lot of people talk, they do not effectively communicate. All right? If you're talking about what's wrong, you're complaining about the situation, and you're not telling me how to help you, that's not effective communication. Because you're ranting and raving about an issue, that's not communicating to me what you need. And that's why I tell women, don't vent to your husbands, because your husbands are fixers by nature. You go to your husband saying, this girl getting on my nerves, she did this. Well, cut off. Now when I call, tell them, call you no more. You're like, no, don't do that. I just want you to vent. You cannot vent to your man, honey. If he's a real man and he love you, he's going to resolve the conflict. That's what he's going to do. So your girlfriends, they'll listen to you rant and rave for hours and hours and even chime in with you. But do you see the difference? And this is why God gave us husbands, to help us with conflict resolution. You can't keep venting all your life. You need to fix some of this frustrating stuff. So conflict comes with better communication and a greater understanding of different perspectives. One of the things my husband will tell me, he says, well, babe, first of all, why does that opinion even matter? You don't need to be focused on that. You're doing this over here, stay over here. Don't worry about that over there. Simple. He gave me a different perspective. He didn't feed into my rant. He let me see it a different way. So now that he shifted my focus, now I can become fruitful again. This is why you need to have healthy people around you. Everybody around you can't be toxic. If you toxic and crazy, you can't have toxic and crazy around you. Y'all all gonna stay toxic and crazy. You gotta have somebody with some common sense, some conflict resolution, and some wisdom. All right? All right. Another benefit of conflict resolution. Are you ready for this one? Reduced stress. God have mercy. Successfully resolving conflicts can alleviate stress and tension associated with disagreements. And a lot of that can be handled with direct communication, but people don't want to do that. They rather talk about it than talk to it, deal with it. But it reduces stress. Once you solve a situation, you don't have to worry about it. Let me talk about it. I used to do free coaching and counseling. And I would set these dates up on my calendar. I would prepare something for the conversation. And then when it's time for the meeting, I'm not going to be able to make it today. I got something to do today. Can we reschedule? I was frustrated. It was stressing me out. So guess what? I collaborated with somebody about my stress. You know what they said to me? Charge for your session. That way you'll know who's serious or not. And that way, if they pay for the session, don't show up, you still got paid. Man, that took all the stress out of everything. It immediately relieved my stress because it helped. It weeded out people who wasn't serious. And if they did, they had to pay a monthly premium. So if they didn't make it, it didn't shortchange me. I could do something else with my day. But I was stressed out because I didn't have anybody to pour into. I didn't get paid for my time. Conflict resolutions will reduce your stress. It will. All right, so I'm not a plagiarist, right? So I did a little research on this. So let me give you some things that I looked up that I found over here at University of Arizona, they did what are five conflict resolution strategies. They call it the 5 R's. They call it relationship, respect, responsibility, repair, and reintegration. Isn't that interesting? Then there are 5 C's of conflict resolution. And those 5 C's were, let's see if I can find it. And then the notebook don't want to cooperate. Right, let me see. All right, so there are 4 A's. There's acknowledge, accept, appreciate, and apologize. That's good. Acknowledge, accept, appreciate, apologize. Then another university, Wilford Laurier University, came with the 5 D's of conflict resolution: direct, delegate, delay, distract, and document. That's classic. Direct, delegate, delay, distract, and document. Those are really, really good. And so there are different ways. There's different people who have done research on these things like that. And you need to find those things if you don't know how to do it. But those things are really good to know, because when you're direct about something, there's no question about where you are. Then you have to delegate different responsibilities. We talked about that a few minutes ago. In the scenario, you can delegate things to help resolve the conflict. Then on top of that, you have to find a distraction. What can distract everybody from the chaos? That's where you got common relief come in. Or, let's go grab some lunch right quick. Or here, go get some ice cream. There was a distraction to bring everybody into a place of calmness. You can delay it. You know what? We're going to table this for about a day or so, and we're going to come back to it. That's a good way to get to a place of resolving a conflict. So they got to put it on pause for a minute so everybody can calm down, everybody can think, get out their feelings. They need to document what's going on. Sometimes when you sit down and write things out, you have a different perspective as well. Because when you're in it, you're not really thinking straight. You're trying to be emotional. You're trying to get your point across. But if you start documenting things that's happening along the way, then you can say, you know what? I noticed that when we did this, this happened, and blah, 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 blah. You'll be amazed how those things can happen. Let's acknowledge there's a conflict. As they say, address the elephant in the room. We're not on the same page. Let's acknowledge that something's going on here. Let's accept responsibility to our part that we played in it. So let's appreciate one another for what we contribute to the team. And then apologize. Listen, my father, William B. Faust, told me something years ago that I did not like it when he said it, because I used to be, I'm going to argue my point. I'm going to get it out. I'm telling the truth, and y'all going to believe me one way or another. I should have been an attorney. But my father told me, Alicia, being right is not always important. And sometimes you just got to apologize. You know what? I could have handled that better. I offended you. My apologies. Because you got to understand, a person's perception is their reality. And you cannot dismiss someone's reality. So sometimes making an apology can resolve the conflict. It calms everybody down, because you got to understand, people who can apologize for things that's not their fault are mature. I'm going to say that again. People who can apologize for things that's really not their fault, but it will bring everybody to a common ground. It takes maturity to do that. And so those 4 A's are great from that university. So conflict resolution is so much deeper than we think. It's very, very necessary in different areas of our lives. And I believe if we learn how to just be willing to listen to somebody else's perspective, know that our way is not the only way. There is no I in team. Teamwork makes the dream work. When we understand that all parties involved can help get to the common goal, we can really shift and change how we handle things, how we handle people, and be better citizens in this world. You have wars because there's no conflict resolution. You have gang fights because there's no conflict resolution. You have people being murdered every day because of lack of conflict resolution. You have companies going bankrupt because there's no conflict resolution. You have companies moving overseas because there's no conflict resolution. It's everywhere we go. People, you can't find certain things on the shelves anymore because there was no conflict resolution between both companies. They could not come to a common ground of what it would take to put their product on the shelves. So it's a lot. We take a lot of things for granted. You can go to the store and get Oreos at just about any store. But what happens when Oreo and Food Line have a conflict? And Food Line does not want to pay Oreo what they asked for to have their cookies on the shelves. And they're constantly being sold out. So now there's a conflict. Guess what? They pull Oreos from the Food Line shelves. So now all the people that was coming to Food Line to get the Oreo cookie, they don't realize Food Line doesn't own the cookie. They just own the shelves. They have to be in a contract with all of those corporations, all those brands. They have to come to a common goal to put their product in their stores so the store makes some money. So the grocery store is nothing without the product on the shelves. Do you see how everybody benefits? So you can't, if you have no product on the shelves, there'll be no customers coming in to check nothing out. No customers checking anything out. Food Line makes no money. But yet Oreo is still in business because there's many other stores that will carry them as opposed to Food Line. You cannot operate in this world by yourself. You need somebody. You need it. If I don't pay my fine, if I don't pay my invoice, then I can't stream on YouTube. I just can't. If I don't do what I'm supposed to do for Second Chance Sound, they can cut me off. So I just got a pink couch sitting in my living room and doing nothing. You understand what I'm saying? You got to be able to resolve conflict. Being right is not always important, but being restored is. Okay? So let's look at restoration more closely as opposed to being right. So I know I gave y'all a lot to think about tonight, a lot of information. But at the end of the day, remember, we are full steam ahead. And remember, that's how we started. This whole entire process started with that. And in order for your esteem to be where it needs to be, you gotta deal with the conflict within yourself. A lot of you have internal conflicts within yourself. There's no resolution. And when you resolve the conflict within yourself, you won't have so many conflicts outside of yourself. In friendships, in relationships, in marketplace, in business, in church, wherever, in sports. You have to have a resolve within yourself. And I believe when you start with yourself, then it will spread abroad. Because once you're at peace with yourself, you'll exude peace everywhere you go. But a lot of people who keep a bunch of stuff started up all the time, people with mess going on, they have no peace within themselves. They're not happy with themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't esteem themselves in a certain place. And so let's deal with the conflicts of our life. As we start this conversation tonight, remember, conflict resolution is the process of finding a mutually agreeable solution to a disagreement or a dispute. You should not live your life in conflict. My name is Coach Lele. Thank you for joining us on the Pink Couch tonight, and we'll see you next week.
If you have a conversation, have a conversation, come to the Pink Couch and talk it out with Coach Lele.